What's up everyone, Snowflake Dan here with you. Today we're going to be covering over how to load API data into a Snowflake table using OpenFlow. So let's get straight to it. So here you can see on the page we have a tutorial website. This tutorial today is going to be mostly about basics of API inside of OpenFlow. I plan to make a couple of different tutorials and videos for different scenarios, but today we're going to just cover over the basics to get started. So the first thing we're going to do here is download the connector. The connector just makes it a little bit easier for us because we won't have to set up parameters, which are really what are known as variables in most of the rest of the world. So here, since I have nothing in my Snowflake account, I'm going to simply copy this code and head over to Snowflake. I'll go to Projects and Workspaces. Then I'll paste in the code and run it. So this will create a database and a couple of schemas and a warehouse if we don't already have one. From there, we'll have to set up a network policy. I am hosted my deployment of OpenFlow inside of Snowflake Container Services, or really just hosted on Snowflake. So I do require this, but if you're on AWS deployment of Snowflake, you won't have to deal with this. So I'll simply copy, paste it here, and you can see that I've got my OpenWeather API here. That's what we're going to be using today, and I've already got the key inside of the connector for you. So we'll hit run. You can see that now I have an external access to this specific API, and we'll head back to the tutorial. And the final thing is we're going to create a table that has one column in it called raw, and that column is a type variant, or what's better known as a semi-structured data type. So we'll head back to Snowflake. Again, we'll just change that over. We'll go into a different schema because I want to put it inside of API. We'll hit run. And now we can see we've got that table weather successfully created. Perfect. So the next part is we're going to head over to OpenFlow. If you do run into an login issue with OpenFlow once you hit the launch button, what you'll have to do is actually change your default role to something other than an admin role. So just keep that in mind while you're logging in. So let's head over to Snowflake. We'll go to ingestion, OpenFlow. We'll launch OpenFlow, and we'll go create a runtime because I don't have one right now. So here you can see I'm deployed inside of Snowflake. If you haven't created a deployment yet and you don't understand how that works, just simply head back to the tutorial, and there's a deployment for Snowflake and AWS. They both roughly take less than 7 minutes to get set up. Awesome. So what we'll do next is we'll give it a name. In this case, I'll call mine API. We'll go with the smallest available. We'll then select account admin as the role, and then we'll select our external access. Perfect. We'll click create. And now this will take roughly 5 to 10 minutes, and we can see the state is in creating. What we're looking for is the state to transition over to active. So I'm just going to fast forward till that happens. So now that we can see our state has transitioned to active, we can click into that API or into that runtime. I'll log in. Then we'll click allow. And perfect. From here, what we'll want to do is actually add the connector that we've downloaded to begin with. So what we'll do is we'll add a process group. We'll click the upload button. We'll click on, I'll have to expand it really quickly just to make so I can get the actual JSON file. So here you can see now I've got my JSON file, which can actually be used inside of OpenFlow. So we'll click it again. We'll grab that JSON and we'll click open. Now we'll click add. And we can see now we have our connector. So the first thing you'll want to do with your connector is actually set up the parameters so that it can talk to the API and also the Snowflake account when we're loading data to the table. So we'll simply right click, go to parameters, and we'll click cancel. So here you can see we have one for the API, we have another for Snowflake, and then finally we have the third and optional one. If you're hosted inside of AWS, it just requires an extra few parameters or variables really. So the first thing we'll do is go to the API one, and we'll click it, and we'll uncheck show inherited parameters. From here, what we could do is we can click on edit and we could see that I've already got the full API endpoint in here, including the location and also our key. I do this because I'm not trying to showcase how to set up authentication in this video or how to pull specific things. Really, I'm just trying to get the basics of the API down. So that's why we only have one URL and everything already pre-filled in for us. So from here, we can click cancel. The one we will have to fill out is the Snowflake one. So here you can see the first step is the connection strategy. We can click edit here and we get a very nice helpful hint. So if you're deployed on Snowflake, you'll use the text or string Snowflake session token. The other one is key pair. So we'll select Snowflake session token, we'll click OK, and then we'll go to the role. And in my case, I'm using accounts admin for everything. So we'll click OK there. The next is the warehouse. So in this case, we called it OpenFlow. The database is raw. The schema was API. And the table was weather. From here, we'll click apply. Now, even though it's applied, you might see a little notification here, which is like a warning symbol. All this means is that we haven't enabled our controller services, basically the thing that allows us to actually connect to the Snowflake account, which we'll see in a second. So we'll click close here. And if you're on AWS, you'll just have to simply fill out your account identifier, username, and a private key that logs into that user. We'll click cancel here and we'll head back. Now, again, like I said, we will start the controller services so that our processors can connect to our Snowflake account. So I'll click enable, and you can see now it has taken that warning away. The other is actually that this processor is actually stopped. So if you see these, it doesn't mean anything's gone wrong. It just simply means that it's stopped. So if we click into the connector by double clicking, you can see now we've got 3 stopped processors that are here. So the first thing here, because I want to give a little bit more detail of how the process works and also some nice features. The first is called Invoke HTTP, which is kind of a processor that is really used well for things like APIs and to invoke HTTP commands to be able to pull things from something like an API. So if we double click on this one, or we can right click also and go to configure, you can see there's a whole bunch of configurations that you could use. But in our case, we're just simply interested in the HTTP URL. You could also set a schedule on here if you wanted to. But in this case, I'm only interested in showing it as a demo. So we'll click cancel here. And what we'll want to do is actually run this once so that we can go and pull the data from it once. Now, that was really quick, surprisingly, but once this is finished, you'll be able to see that it's being put into a queue, or the result is put into a queue. So if we wanted to view that, we could simply right-click the queue and click List Queue. And this will allow us to see the contents of the response. So if we wanted to, we could click here and click View Contents. And here we could get a very nice, pretty output of the JSON response that we've gotten from the API. Now, what I want to do here is actually copy this because it's not in the right format I want. Because if we remember when we created the table, it was just a single column where what this would require is actually a column for every single one of these keys. So what we'll need to do is basically create like one overall structure and we'll call it raw. That contains all of this information. So the way to do that, and if we close this window and then we go back to the connection, is we'll use something known as a jolt transform JSON to accomplish this. And so what is a jolt? The name always like gets me, but jolt transform JSON is just an easy way to write up a little bit of code to perform the transformation that we want. So if I go into configure and I go to properties, you can see this jolt transformation, jolt specification here. And you can see I've got some code here that transforms it. Now, This is kind of a little bit confusing, but if you go into the documentation for this, it will explain to you how this kind of works. But what I like to do is actually look at it and see if what I'm doing is correct. So if you ever want to test your transformation, what you could do is simply right click, go to advanced. You'll see I've already got it in here because the processor has it. I can paste in my contents that I've received from the prior step and click transform. And we could see the results of what would happen if I did that transformation. And now we could see this overarching raw key, which the value is actually the entire JSON that we received. So that's the transformation I wanted to see, and so it works pretty well. So to validate this, we can simply click run once again. This will do the transformation, again, put it in the success step, which then we can view the contents and validate that it's doing what we expect it to do. Additionally, what we can look at on the left-hand side menu is if any type of failures do occur, we can also push those into what's known as a funnel. In the future, if you want to, you could always make these Slack notifications or Teams notifications. But in this case, we're just simply funneling them to here so that we would be able to look at those failures. So here we can see that we've been successful again. We can list the queue one more time. We could view the contents of that. And we can see it has transformed the way we expected it to, and it's ready to load into our weather table. So we'll close this. We can go back to the connection, and we'll run the final step once. And so what we're doing here is we're using Snowpipe streaming, which is the most cost-effective way to load data into Snowflake because it never actually starts up the warehouse, and the cost is roughly 0.0037 credits per gigabyte. So this would be in the orders of fractions of a penny for loading this record, which in my perspective is much better than loading it using a warehouse. Awesome, so we've loaded that successfully. So if we went back to our Snowflake account, we went back to workspaces, and we just select from the table. We can now see our data has been loaded. And if we open up this menu, we can now see the data that originally came from it without the raw header, because it's now our column, is all loaded in there perfectly. Awesome. So this has been loading API data into Snowflake using OpenFlow. Thanks for watching.